Good afternoon, everybody. Just one or two housekeeping things before I talk about our last game and our upcoming opponent. Just awfully proud of Coach Christie and her staff and the team for their big win last night. Man, that was just so exciting, and to know what a drought that Alabama women's basketball had against Tennessee for such a long time, and to see how her teams have played against them is just really excited for her and her staff. Um, Second thing, I was touched on social media. I think there was a kid that finished second or something in a spelling bee, and he showed great sportsmanship, and he said it was because of his role model, Jalen Hurts, and to see how other teams and student athletes and coaches are having such a positive effect on the university, and the positive light that is shining on the university really makes me feel proud. So congratulations to Coach Christie. I know Jalen has moved on to OU, and wish him all the best, except if he plays Alabama football. But congratulations to him and the role model that he's turned out to be for so many people. Our last game, obviously, we were excited that we bounced back. We weren't perfect. The defense was much improved. I saw guys diving on the floor. We rebounded the ball well. We got a big lift from the bench. It wasn't our greatest offensive performance, but it was much better defensively. Did a much better job of defending the three-point line in the second half. Tennessee, huge problem on every level. We think they're the best team in the country. And so we'll get a chance to play the best team in the country on Saturday. On tomorrow, a balanced team. Basically, the entire roster is back. These guys have gotten better in the offseason. The Schofield and Williams up front, they're a handful, inside out, strong, committed, fierce competitors, and they got some veteran guys in the backcourt that know how to play really efficient basketball. Whenever you have four guys or whatever shoot 90% from the free throw line, and your assist to turnover ratio is as positive as theirs are, you're going to win some games. So we got a tough, stiff test, but the way we worked out yesterday, the way we bounced back, I think we're really up for the challenge.
Thank you, Coach. We're starting with the back right here with Alex.
Avery, two questions. You mentioned the defense improvement. Obviously, 60 points. Probably the lowest. I think it is the lowest output y'all put out, all defensive output all year. What was the key there, especially from a?
The mic up. I'm sorry.
What was the key there, especially from kind of a matchup standpoint? Junior was kind of talking about how they focused in more on like individual matchups and maybe a bigger concept or something.
Yeah, I think the big key for us defensively, we kind of moved some people around. We decided to play Herb on the point guard and play him on the ball, and decided to, maybe move Lewis somewhere else. We thought that was a tremendous help for us. We only forced 3 turnovers in our last home loss, and that doesn't sit well with me. We don't get many deflections, so we just kind of changed some personnel around and changed some personnel groupings, and we thought that gave us some more length on some of their smaller guards.
And Dante Hall this year, how have you seen him emerge as more of a vocal leader? He said y'all have had discussions about that. Kind of go into that if you don't mind, take us behind the curtain, and then what's been the key to him being more vocal?
Well, I just think we talked about there's an expiration date for him, here at the university now. That's really in sight. And I talked to him about, if the season expired today, are you going to really feel good about being a captain and your leadership skills? And I don't want you to leave from here with any regrets that I should have led a little bit better. I should have been more of a general in practice and should have held my teammates more accountable. Now is the time to do it, and he's accepted that challenge.
So in the front row here with Chris.
What is it about this team that's able to shake off these buzzer beaters?
I just think it's a team that really doesn't put their head down. They understand that when they come up short, they're correctable errors. It's a bunch of situations that have shown up in practice. I, I think they understand the seriousness of small, minute details. And the next day when we go into practice and work on those situations, there's a level of intensity and focus that we just didn't get when we failed. So they understand that failure isn't final. The easiest thing to do is, have a 20-point loss and everybody, a 20-point win, excuse me, and everybody loves you. And, but can you survive and come back from, a devastating defeat that's disappointing to everybody, and especially our fans and all of our students that showed up. So I thought that was a great example and a message that we sent to everybody that was here for our game, that just don't give up on us. We didn't want a guy to make a one-legged three-point shot falling out of bounds, and we were out of position. We've looked at it and hopefully corrected it if we're in that situation again.
Jump back over to the right side to Tony.
I know they're two different teams, but does the game against Kentucky and being the underdog and playing and kind of having that upset, does that kind of give you the confidence you need to approach a game like this?
I think your confidence comes from being consistent. Consistent practice habits, consistent when there's 10 seconds on the shot clock and you're on offense, can you get a quality shot? Consistency and attitude and work ethic. I think that's where the confidence comes from. I don't know a lot of times whether we're underdog or favorites and all of that. I know we're Alabama basketball, and if we play right, we have the capability of beating a lot of teams.
Back right here, Cecil.
Excuse me.
Coach, you'll be in a situation tomorrow where you could do a great defensive job on Admiral Schofield, and Grant Williams can still score 25, 30 points. How do you handle both those guys? What do you have to do?
Yeah, we were in a similar situation last year, Cecil, when they came to Coleman. And, from a philosophical standpoint, you're really in trouble when both of those guys play well at the same time. So you got to figure out what you're willing to live with. But also, you can't be so stressed about those two guys and then Bowden gets away from you, Bone gets away from you. Obviously, Lamont Turner can shoot the ball. He's an Alabama kid, so we know he's going to want to play well against us. So, philosophically, without giving the scouting report, I just think kind of the whole overall big picture is you have to try to slow one of those guys down.
And then a guy who comes off the bench, Pons, what kind of matchup situation is he, 35?
Well, yeah, he's one of those energy guys, utility guys. They spread him all over the floor. He can guard anywhere from a 1 through a 5-man. He's their guy that they get out on the break and get layups for him, takes charges. He tries to put the fire out on the opponent's best offensive perimeter player. So even though he's starting and he doesn't necessarily play but about 15 to 17 minutes before Bowden comes in, he's the guy that ignites them on the break early in the game and tries to get their defense going, especially with steals and charges and diving on the floor and rebounding and running on the break.
Time for a couple more questions. We'll start with Alan.
You were talking about consistency just a few minutes ago. How much has Dante provided some of that? I mean, I think 5 or 6 double-doubles last 6 games, and then obviously I think he's leading the SEC in that. Just how has he been that kind of consistent threat for you?
It's been a luxury because, in certain situations, I don't know what I'm going to get from the team overall and then certain individuals, okay? If I knew I was going to get a performance that type of energy from Avery Jr. that we got in Missouri. Sure like to get it every night. You know, it hadn't been there for 10 games. So if you're capable of doing that, then, you know, because your dad wants you to play a little bit more. He talks to the coach every night, but you got to act like a fifth-year senior. And you got to play like it. And Dante Hall plays like a senior, and he plays like he's hungry. We just got to get it across the board from everybody on the team on a consistent basis, and I think that'll correlate with us being a more efficient team.
And Dante's kind of nearing some pretty lofty marks individually for his career and stuff. Just when you think of, you know, the 200 blocks and you know, I think what 700, almost 700 rebounds. So I mean, when you just think of those numbers, what does that tell you about what he's done here and what mark he's left?
Well, it tells you more about what's inside of his body, his heart. Because a lot of times he's outweighed by, 30 or 40 pounds every night, somewhere in there. But he plays with passion. He never makes an excuse. He's very coachable, always focused. And whether I run a play for him or not, he always thinks he can get the job done. So I think that just speaks to, you know, what a job that his mom Mary's done with him, especially facing the tragedy of losing his dad when he lost his dad. And, you know, this guy, they should do a 30 for 30 maybe on this guy, because he's not always the biggest and the baddest, but boy, he's a competitor.
Any other questions for Coach?
All right, thanks.